Okay, good afternoon. Today we are getting... Hello. So today we are going to go about heat-related illness and the surveillance training of the surveillance formats and data transmission. And we will also talk about current activities and health action plans. Before we start, we have our HOD, Dr. Akash Srivastava with us. And so I request him to give few words before we go forward.
Good afternoon, everyone. You all must be aware now that starting the month of March is the time when we start recording heat waves in the country. And the 23 heat-prone states have to enter into surveillance of heat-related illnesses and deaths. We have last year revised the format for surveillance and also introduced a new death investigation form, heat death investigation form, which unfortunately in the last summers was not used by many of the states. And it is important to understand that it is a surveillance that needs to be undertaken seriously, not only because it's a matter that we deal with the Ministry of Health, it is also a matter that is of importance to the NDMA, National Disaster Management Authority, State Disaster Management Authorities, and District Disaster Management Authorities, because they are involved in revenue compensation process. They are involved in estimating the damage and the loss caused by heat notified as a disaster. And there is a strong dependence on the health ministry, on state health department on providing that information for their states. So that is one important aspect. Another important aspect is that you all know that it's high time that we need to finalize our state action plan on climate change, and there is a requirement of all of you to finish with the chapter of health sector role in heat action plan, which has been long been asked by DDMAs and SDMAs to be integrated in their own action plans, the health sector plans. So a lot of things are awaited to be done, and since with heat starts in the month of March, it's right time probably for us to have a session where we will try to address you what are the challenges and the requirements under the program. So with that, welcome you all to this session. Please pay attention and take forward what the training you receive today to your districts. And also this is PIP process time. A lot of activities have been informed in the PIP that you need to do. A number of those activities are related to heat. Also 31st of March is coming. You have remaining budgets from this financial year which you need to spend. IC in heat and training in heat is some of the activities that you could use without any further delay to spend that money before the end of the financial year, so that you can save on for the next year money for additional different other subject ICs and training. If you are able to spend the remaining money in the next 1.5 months on heat IC and heat training. So with these remarks, I hand over back to Dr. Purvi Patel to please take it forward. Dr. Purvi, please.
Thank you, sir. We have our senior advisor, Dr. Pradeep Saxena, also here. So we would like to hear a few words from him before we go forward.
Thank you, Dr. Patel. Good afternoon, all the participants. I hope I am audible to all.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Welcome to this special training being organized by NCDC Program Division on the heat-related illness surveillance. As Dr. Akash told you just now, this training is meant for state nodal officers, district nodal officers, and state consultants dealing with climate change in various, mainly in the heat-prone state. Today's training, as per the agenda already sent to you, has been organized for 16 states and union territories, and tomorrow there will be another batch of 19. And purpose of this training is to firstly familiarize yourself with the various activities under the program of climate change and the impact of heat on the human health, and also to make you aware of the surveillance formats, data collection regarding heat, analysis of heat stroke deaths, and also data analysis. And after today's training, mind you, we are training you to become master trainers for this heat related surveillance. After you get today's training, your job is to pass on the knowledge learned today to your in the state, in the district, in the medical officers and other field staff, how to do about it. With these words, thank you, and Dr. Purvi, please continue.
Thank you, sir. So let's move on to the presentation. Okay, so this is the agenda for the today's activities. So we'll go through NPCCH overview, short overview, some information about heat action plan, health impact of ambient heat, and then we will dive into surveillance activities, mainly heat stroke cases and death investigation, and then analysis. Meanwhile, I request that the participant can please put their names and place in the chat box. If they have any questions, they can also put in a chat box, so we can go through it. If we can answer it now or get back to you with more information. And I think if this gets long, we will also have some short break in between. So let's go to the NPCCH review. It's not moving. Okay, so yes, also, and if you have not contacted all the DNOs and consultants, please make sure they join here. So that will be very helpful. So background, most of you know, the program is implemented through Ministry of Health and Family Welfare under the Aegis of Mission on Health, which was introduced under Prime Minister's Council on Climate Change in 2014. And the framework was drafted as a National Action Plan on Climate Change and Human Health, and it was prepared by National Expert Group in 2015, and which was revised last year. And the goal of the program is to reduce morbidity, mortality, injuries, and health vulnerability to climate variability and extreme weather. So we have 5 components, 5 objectives mainly. First is generating awareness, that is through IC campaigns, sensitization workshops, and advisories. Capacity building through training of healthcare workers and professionals, which includes generating guidelines and providing manuals for the training. The third component is strengthening health sector preparedness through health adaptation plans, which we are making at a national level for 17 climate sensitive diseases and issues. We are also having vulnerability assessment, which has been done in some of the states. We are doing surveillance in all identified specific climate sensitive issues. We are also trying to establish early warning alerts and response system in various of these diseases. And we are also working on green and resilient healthcare facilities. So these 3 components are major activities at district level. At the central and state level, we are also focusing on collaborative partnership with various ministries, departments, missions, and national programs and organizations to facilitate our work and reach in the state and the country. We are also working with ICMR on research based on the gaps identified. So these are the 5 components, and mainly work is done in 1, 2, and 3. So this is the organizational framework at the central level under the health mission, MOHFW, and under that comes the central component, which is housed in the headquarters is NCDC. And at NCDC, we also work with centers of excellence, and we also collaborate with IMD, NDMA, and other such organizations that help us to understand environmental aspects and disaster aspects. At the state level, there is a governing body requirement we should also have multi-sectoral task force and environmental health cell. Environmental health cell is the main functioning body which implements the program activities. Multi-sectoral task force is there to help you, to draft the action plans and identify the issues and integrate them in implementation planning. And governing body is the executive body. So most of the states now have governing body and some sort of environmental health cell structure through SNOs, and many of them are also going to hire consultant this year, hopefully. And multi-sectoral task force is very important, as I said, for the development of action plan, which is long due. And so we request all the states to take the effort to call the meeting quarterly and try to finish their revise and finish their action plans. And at district level, we have district environmental health cell and the task force with a similar purpose to draft district level action plans and execute implementation activities at the district level and sub-district level. So now, most of the things I already mentioned: central level, state level, organization structure, district level, and sub-district level. We integrate with NHM, and we work with medical officers, Panchayati Raj institutions, and community health workers to take forward our awareness activities in the community. Quickly, I'll go through all the different components. In generating awareness, we choose advisories. We do in air pollution in the month of August and heat wave in February, which will be for this year. It will be soon sent according to IMD. And cold wave we sent in December. IEC and publications, we have done air pollution, heat, and we are also making some IEC in other climate sensitive issues. We have drafted some manuals for children, women in traffic, and worker in air pollution, and we are in process of getting more of them drafted by different COEs. We also do sensitization workshop and campaigns on the important days of international importance, like World Environment Day, Clean Air for Blue Skies, and there are many more days that we are planning this year. And these are also mentioned in the District Health Action Plan. So if you go through that, there are more days that we plan to celebrate this year. Now, in capacity building, we have training sessions at state and district level, and then also for hospital nodal officers for air pollution, because hospitals are our main reporting units. So we also train nodal officers for collection of air pollution related, health related data on acute respiratory illnesses, and medical officer, of course, we train them for our surveillance and hospital preparedness activities. And we have guidelines at national level. We have published National Action Plan on Heat-related Illness and Adaptation Plan for Diseases due to Air Pollution. Similarly, training modules, as I mentioned, air pollution has published, there are modules on air pollution. And we do monitoring, try to do quarterly review with the states, understand the challenges and help them. We have also tried to introduce, we are also working on introducing the curriculum on climate change. Then if we come to strengthening health sector preparedness, so we have 13 climate sensitive diseases and 4 health issues identified, and as you said, we are in the process of preparing the health adaptation plans, and state is also preparing SAPCCH, district will be preparing their action plans. We'll do vulnerability needs assessment, which has begun with 4 states, and early warning, alert, and response system, which we are working on. And about heat alert and early warning, I'll be mentioning more in the heat section. Of course, the surveillance, as most of you know, air pollution related illness surveillance and heat related illness surveillance are going on. Where in the air pollution, the reporting unit, the primary unit is Sentinel Hospital. In heat related illness, it starts with the PHC and above. So medical officers are major, they play a major role in identifying the cases and reporting them through facility. The next is the green and resilient healthcare facilities, which you must have heard in last few days that we are also trying to, introduce them in PIP and asking states to work on that, because green, in the sense environmentally friendly infrastructure and resilient health facilities are very important to fight against disaster related impacts. So we have proposed energy audit, rainwater harvesting, solarization, LED bulb replacement, cool roofing, and all these activities are also in DHAP. So we are hoping that these are all implemented, and slowly our health facilities will become resilient and green. IPHS standards are also revised, and hopefully we are waiting for them to be published. So that will also come and help in terms of what are the standards for climate resiliency. So I'll just keep it. I mentioned collaborative partnership is mainly state and central level activity. We do partnership with IPSB and UCP and other programs and other divisions of different ministries. So I'll just skip this. Now this is the slide that shows the health impact of climate change. There are so many impacts that due to climate change in terms of heat or excess rain, drought, and they all those environmental impacts lead to different kind of diseases, non-communicable, communicable, respiratory, food-related. On this whole slide shows all the different diseases that we eventually be focusing on through our action plans and implementations. So this slide shows that the identified diseases, the 17 identified specific diseases that we will be working on, and these are the COEs that are helping us in technical aspects. These are the publications. You must have seen these before. That they are already available and ready to use for you. Yes, this is a state action plan, and this is what Dr. Akash was also mentioning, that we need to, revise it and formalize it so we can use it as an implementation tool going forward. So multi-sector task force meeting is one of the way to get the information. In terms of heat, we have also shared a list of documents that you can use and improve the plan. Some other documents and action plans I have also shared, and I will also go through them, how to, what sort of elements you should have in those. So I will go through that. Okay. Now I wanted to mention that on our website, if you go through NCDC website, there is a national health program, and under you will find NPCCH, and if you go through documents and publications, you will find all this whatever action plans, national level adaptation plans available, as well as states action plan and subject specific action plans for all those diseases that we identified. So you can also use them, and material that is available, you can use that to improve or add upon the chapters in your state action plan. Okay. So here I'll quickly mention the heat action plan. So heat action plan, when we say action plan, is actually a chapter in state action plan of climate change, but it can be an individual document which can be implemented when the summer comes or before summer preparation. So when we say health action plan, that is the chapter of that SAP-CCH. So what are the major components of a heat action plan? So we should have early warning system and interagency emergency response plan. Second thing, we should have public awareness and community outreach. That means that what is your plan of IEC dissemination, what kind of IEC you're doing, and what are the target groups, and how will you approach them, and who are your partners in these activities. Third will be capacity building of medical professionals. So we have training modules which we'll be sharing in a few months, and then you can devise a plan, how will you approach, how many districts should be priority, who will be conducting the training, who will be TOT. So all these things you can plan. And the other component is reducing heat exposure and promoting adaptive measures. So in that you can have individual measures. You can suggest that, or you can also have health facility specific measures like cool roofing, green roofing, that actually helps health facility to work better in and cater in the heat extreme conditions. Okay, so now I'm going through that specific heat action plan. What should be in that? So I will just give like broad suggestions that we have seen in different action plans, like Ahmedabad heat action plan. Also, Telangana is action plans. Many more cities and states have action plans. So what a state action plan will have? It will have a list of stakeholders and with the identifier roles and responsibilities. So this is one of the action plan. You can see that roles and responsibility when the heat wave comes. They will have, interagency response. Who will do that? What is the kind of preparation will be done? Whose responsibility is that? Then you see establishing early warning system. So who will do that? How will get to the health facility? All these things should be lined out. Second is to identify and list the resources required. So definitely we will have financial, manpower, other resources that you can put that in the action plan. Then identify and list key actions. Depending on your geography and population vulnerability, you can identify what key actions you want to do. You want to have like ORS center in your health facility, or you want to do IC. Whatever your key actions you can identify the partners and plan timetable schedules you can do. Operational coordination is also important. When will somebody will be informed? So like this key, once you identify key actions, what is the short-term activity, long-term activity that you can identify. This is from our National Action Plan. So we have to make a detailed action plan. Just a minute. So what type of logistics required at the healthcare facilities? Preparedness of health system and personnel, that includes training. List of activities for prevention of illnesses, indicate threshold for the release of awareness campaigns, ICE pamphlet, advisories, parameters to assess training needs. So you can also think about that. Usually the threshold of environmental event should be localized, but right now we are not able to do because we do not have enough data on health impact. But once we have that, we can also do a threshold planning and information sharing the early ones based on those thresholds. So for source of this information, you have a national action plan. You can also look into your state's action plan on climate change. Where might be some more activities on heat, heat reduction, heat prevention might have been going on. You can also use other states or cities action plan. You can use task force and also scientific literature to engage your action plan. So this is from Ahmedabad Heat Action Plan. You can see the checklist for AMC because the action plan is city based. So here we have municipal corporation nodal officer of what activity you will do before summer, during heat event, and post summer. So they have identified the checklist format. We have press officer, labor department. So see, this kind of checklist will help implementation. So you can think of such kind of checklist. Then operational communication channels. So this is again from a heat action plan of Ahmedabad. So you can identify from where which information will go to which department or person at what point of time. That also can be identified and mapped in the metrics or in this form of graphics. Mechanism and data surveillance and to analyze it on time and to utilize it for the further planning, alert generation and timely sharing with the stakeholders and concerned departments that should be done. Then disease-specific advisory, that's the usual part. And indicators related to input, process, outcome, and output that should also be identified in the action plan. This was a document we prepared to help states and districts to see some of the scientific literature that you can utilize. There is one literature on heat vulnerability mapping that is available district-wise. So if you are thinking which district to focus or which district might have more heat-related health impact, then you can also go and see which district is vulnerable and try to plan your activities accordingly. So some of these are identified so that practically they can help you, get more information and action points. I have already shared it in email, but I will also share it again. So we have also suggested IMD website to get the temperature or warnings, and we are also planning them to send directly to the state nodal officers early warnings and things. So we are also working on that. Okay, so I will skip this. Okay, so district health action plans you must have noted that we have shared a draft of district health action plan that is under PIP. We have drafted for PIP process to facilitate for next 2 years what activities at district level should be done. So we have identified activities, IC campaigns and calendar. We have given training calendar. PIP-related information, program indicators, and quarterly progress report. So although there is no key deliverable as such in a PIP, we still would like to focus on program indicators, and we try to implement and expand it. So we can show as a program, we can show the progress in the program at state level and district level. So please go through that. So here is the communication IC campaign. So how we define an IC campaign? So we have listed all the activities. So under IC campaign, there will be posters on 1 or 2 large wall posters that will be disseminated to all healthcare facilities and all government educational institutions. So you can decide which disease is prevalent or which disease you want to focus at the state level. That 1 or 2 large wall posters you can prepare and send it to them. One poster each on each facility or institute per year. ODs and billboards, 5 to 10 billboards on prevalent CSI, that is climate sensitive illnesses in the district, should be placed in public areas. Then there is wall painting, 1 or 2 wall paintings on a different climate sensitive illness per health facility. Audio and video clips, 1 or 2 video clips of 1 or 2 minutes duration, broadcasted on climate sensitive illnesses, which is relevant to that part of the year. So we may, you may have to prepare, or we may provide you, and you can also prepare on your side, more than 2 diseases. This is like we are in one season, like heat and flood will be there. Then another season, a relevant season, vector-borne and food-borne. That way, we can broadcast. Similarly, for the radio clips, a digital display of IC wherever it is possible in the healthcare facilities, there should be displayed. Painting on the buses, 5 to 10 buses per district on prevalent illness, and social media, of course, Twitter, Facebook should be used whenever the relevant period for that particular disease is there, seasonal wise. So IC content we will also provide. You can translate it. You can also generate your own IC. And dissemination plan, we have decided according to the season. We have given some ideas on whether in summer you can prefer heat disaster, and monsoon we can do vector-borne, zoonotic, waterborne. In winter, air pollution, cardiopulmonary disease, and allergic diseases, and other diseases can be focused on any time of the year, like mental health, occupational health, green and climate resilient infrastructure. So you can plan according to your needs and seasons and locations, which IC you want to go through and how you want to plan it. Okay, so this is the IC which is available on our website right now on heat, and we are also getting new IC probably on COVID and heat, because they sometimes have confusing symptoms. So that might also be coming, and we will be sharing that with you. Yeah, so that's it. And for now, if anyone has questions, I'll see. Otherwise, we'll move forward. Any questions? Okay. Yes, somebody asked about the guidelines. Yes, we will share. We have actually shared, and we will also share the documents with available literature and available action plans again with you. We will have a Google Drive folder, and we will share that with you. Yes, we will also share PPT. Yes, Kadri sir, yeah, new IC we are planning on heat and COVID, and we will share, and also some more will be coming from our COE. So we will share that when it is ready. Other question. Okay, from where we can access the documents. Okay, for supporting documents for action plan, I will share. I think I'll share a Google link by end of this, presentation. I will share it in the chat box. That is for Google folder. You can utilize that. For training resource and training related guidelines. I think training guidelines and resources will be also available soon. So we will also share that in due time. Okay, this question is, by which fund will we be able to do all IC in the district? I think a state will be better answer. I'm not sure I am a good person to ask. I think state should, right? It should be NHM fund, and state should also guide you. Dr. Chetan, which state you are from? Can you please type? Uttarakhand. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for suggestion, Dr. Bhupendra Singh. Yes. Okay. I have read your comment about the radio frequency. Yes. Thank you. Dr. Bipul is saying webinar on hypothermia. Okay. So I will move to next presentation on heat now. Okay. Okay, so we are moving on to health impact of ambient heat. Okay. Okay, so it is my understanding that it is important to understand why ambient heat is affecting our health. And I'm just going out of my way to, help understand why climate change, global warming, and ambient heat is very important. Because in my previous interactions, I have realized that understanding, physical aspect of the thing and some of the science aspect of it will help understand how important it is to work on the heat and collect, do surveillance and prepare for it in the health adaptation. So I'm just going through some scientific aspects of global warming and climate change, and I hope it will help you. So here we see there is a very well-known graph of increasing global temperature. Sorry. So we see on the left side, on the y-axis there is a temperature change relative to 1850 to 1900. So the change is going from -0.5 to 1.5, and on the right axis, on the x-axis, you see the years. And we can clearly see that 1860, starting from that to around 1900, the temperature change is remained pretty much zero, not much change. And suddenly after 1900, we see a very much trend of increasing global temperature continuously till 2000. And after 2000, the rise is pretty much linear, straightforward upward rise. And if you see in the right side, so we can see on the nearest 1986, 2005, and 2006, 2015. In the very short period, we have seen a global temperature rise. Now, if we see here, we can see that this is the observed warming. So over time, what is observed, what is the temperature change over time is in a gray bar here. But if you bifurcate that observed warming into different components, on the right side in the middle, we can see that there is a human influence. The activities that human has done after 1900, mainly the fossil fuel-based activity, has produced greenhouse gases. That is, you can see in the middle one that the greenhouse gases have contributed to global warming. And the little blue one, which is going downwards, is sulfur dioxide, which actually is a gas that does not allow warming. So actually, it has masked the actual global warming effect of the greenhouse that we have produced. So in summary, we can do this red graph, a red bar and the blue bar, and combine the overall contribution of human impact on global warming is in this bar. And if we see here in the gases, carbon dioxide and methane has made the most contribution towards warming. These are all other gases that have occurred and came into the environment due to human activity. But methane and carbon dioxide is the most prominent ones, and these are the premier gases that actually produce a greenhouse effect. There are other natural activities also. They contribute to warming, but it is not enough. That is not adequate or insufficient to cause this much as warming. And so now scientists have agreed that it is a human-induced global warming. Now, just quickly to go through major greenhouse gases, what they do. So mostly Earth receives the heat and energy from the sun, and most of the energy goes back into the atmosphere, reflected back. But some of this energy, which is in the infrared spectrum, that bounces back. And when there are more gases in the atmosphere, those gases work as a blanket on the Earth, and then they do not let that heat go back. So over the time, the blanket prevents all the heat going out, and so the Earth is becoming warmer and warmer. As I said, carbon dioxide is a major gas, and it has a very long life. And so right now in the atmosphere, all the carbon dioxide we have produced since 1800 through the vehicle emissions, fossil fuel, is all there in environment. It has very long life, and it is just increasing, and due to that, heating effect is also increasing because all the light that should go back into the space is not going back, but is blanketed in the earth. And another gas is methane that comes from biological, agriculture and animal husbandry and all. Methane is short-lived compared to carbon dioxide. It lives only for 10 years in atmosphere, but it is very potent. It is around 25% more potent in keeping the heat inside the Earth's atmosphere. So these two are very important. And so our main effort is to reduce these emissions. This is a carbon cycle. Now gradually we realize that all what we have learned when we were small, this is actually impacting us. How carbon cycle is affected us in our Earth is very important to understand. If you see in the left side, we had all the carbon that was underground as a fossil carbon, and we have brought it out over the years as emissions. So the stock that was inside the earth is now outside, and so the balance of carbon dioxide and carbon has changed. More carbon in the atmosphere, more carbon dioxide, more blanketing, and more conversion, more heat that is trapped in the earth. So this is very simple thing, that more carbon in atmosphere and more heating. Until we stop and become actually net zero, all the carbon dioxide that is going to be added for every use we do, it's going to do more and more warming. So even if we imagine that we will stop all the carbon related activity in this today and tomorrow, the carbon dioxide we have thrown out in the atmosphere before, it's all going to stay there for many years to come. So greenhouse effect and global warming will be there even if we stop the carbon dioxide now. So now we see the carbon dioxide in last 800,000 years. You see that there is a very, it is started with 200 parts per million 800,000 years ago, and there is a variation in the carbon dioxide levels. But now, if you see here in 1910, it has reached 300 ppm suddenly, and then within just 100 years, it has reached 400 ppm. And Earth's atmosphere has not seen this much carbon dioxide in this many years. And so the impact that we are going to observe is not observed before. Now we see global temperature and carbon dioxide in this graph. The white one is temperature and red one is carbon dioxide, and we can see the both of them has increased, and there is a very pretty close correlation that carbon dioxide increase coincides with the temperature increase. Now I'll just show you the simple this thing, and it is a global warming. So whole Earth's temperature is increasing, and definitely India's temperature is also increasing. So this is the temperature taken since 1901 to 2020, and we see that definite rise in temperature in India. And so if India is high temperature, definitely the states are going to have, and there is no state that has not seen a rise in temperature. So whether you take a smallest island state like Andaman Nicobar, take Goa, take Chhattisgarh, take Jharkhand, Jammu Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, all the states have seen increase in land temperature over time since 1900. These are other few states: Karnataka, Manipur, Uttar Pradesh, Uttaranchal, West Bengal, whether it is coastal or Himalayan or central, all of them have seen a rise in temperature, as you can see in the red bars here. Just quickly go through what an increase in temperature do. The global warming has other impacts because it is the warming of in many other systems in the environment and Earth. So what increased temperature do? Increased temperature will hold more water because more water will be vaporized from all the rivers and ponds and things. So it will hold more vapor in the atmosphere and more faster evaporation of water. And then that means that our environment will have more water content, more vapor content in the atmosphere. And what they will do, it will lead to heavier rainfall, intensified rainfall in one place and no rainfall in another place. So it will change the rainfall cycle, and we will see drought in some areas which was receiving good rainfall earlier, and we will see high rainfall and flooding in some of the areas which was also not having those kind of problem before. So these are some of them are unexpected. Some of these intensities we can model based on the previous historical data. But these are the impacts of a warmed planet. So how do we know what other systems are affecting us? It is coming at extreme heat, which is going to be more frequent, more intense. Heavy rainfall, more frequent, more intense. A drought, increase in some region. Fire hazard, because there is a drier climate in one area with high heat, it may lead to fire. And ocean warming. Oceans are one of the best protector of heat for us because they absorb a lot of heat, but they also have a limitation. So once they stop absorbing that, they will also additional heat on the environment. So as we said, every ton of carbon emissions matters, and it should be stopped and reduced in a due time to have lesser impact of climate change on our health and economy. And that's where our component of reducing health facilities' own carbon footprints come in. So even though the footprints of health facilities is 4%, it is contributing some things through procurement, acquisition of different materials and drugs and all. They are also contributing to some sort of carbon emission. So our effort in environmentally friendly hospitals is that to reduce their own carbon footprint and reduce this carbon emission. So I'll just share a small video with you.
Since the Industrial Revolution, humanity has been running an unintentional experiment in Earth's atmosphere, pushing the climate to new extremes.
Things are going to get hot.
Oh, you can feel the heat. This is insane. Oh my God.
Attitudes have changed rapidly because everyone can see for themselves the climate change that is occurring.
A child born today will witness across her lifetime a planet transformed by rising temperature.
I got you.
How did we get here?
Every time you get in your car, every time you fly a plane, every time you turn the heat on, all of those things are putting carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. And if there's more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, there's a higher temperature.
And now temperatures have started to spike.
If we keep pumping billions of tons of CO2 into the atmosphere each year, we really will cook ourselves, literally, in the end.
To stop the worst impacts of planetary heating, we need rapid emissions cuts, starting now.
The developed nations of the world need to go from the energy system they have now to one that emits nothing, zero, in 30 years' time. The good news is we know how to do that. Renewables now are the cheapest form of electricity on 2/3 of the Earth's surface, and it's going to be everywhere.
A world of carbon-free energy is coming. But climate impacts are coming faster.
So with that, this is a recent report of IPCC, and this is just a fact sheet on Asia, and they have shown a different impact. On the left side, we can see the temperature impact, and without any restriction on carbon emission, we can see in the 4 degrees Celsius increase. In the lower left part, we see that whole Earth is red, and it will experience a lot of heat. And on the middle 2 columns, we can see precipitation. So India is expected to see more rainfall, more erratic rainfall, and also drought in some regions. So these are the 3 main impacts: heat, excess rainfall, and drought. And just to summarize that, with each increase in the temperature, so right now we are at 1.1 degrees Celsius since the industrial age. That is where global warming has occurred. If we reach to 1.5, we will see 4 times increased likelihood of heat-related event that usually occurred only 10-year duration. And if we increase our temperature to 2 degrees, it will more likely be 5.6 times. And at 4 degrees Celsius, we can see it will occur more frequently. So this will be the impact of increased temperature. Okay. Okay. So before I move into heat, health impact of ambient heat, should we take a break or? Should we take a 5-minute break? Okay. Okay, so next part is also a little long. So yeah. Okay, I will continue. So health impact of ambient heat. So now we go to clinical part and public health part of the heat impact. Okay, so we can see heat has direct impact on us, and there is also many indirect impact. Direct impact is that we get heat-related illnesses like dehydration, cramps, heat strokes. There are accelerated deaths from respiratory diseases, cardiovascular diseases, and other chronic diseases. So heat not only causes heat stroke, but it also increases the chances of other death due to other diseases, pre-existing diseases. It also increases the hospitalization due to respiratory disease, diabetes, renal disease, stroke, and mental health. And on the other side, if you see indirectly, very high heat also affects the power supply, water supply, transportation, and productivity. And that can indirectly affect how somebody is reaching the hospital or how somebody is cooling in their homes and offices. And other important aspect is on the left side, impact of heat health services. So we might have less ambulance services are slowed down, or less response personnel available to help us when we need in the heat impact. So many of us know what are the heat-related illnesses. It has a spectrum of illnesses that starts from very mild to very severe and fatal, like prickly heat, heat rash, heat cramps, heat tetany, heat syncope, and severe is heat exhaustion and heat stroke. And the normal body temperature is in very narrow physiological range, and so our body has a capacity to tackle heat and cold in very narrow range of temperatures. So heat stroke is a more serious health condition. It is many times it is fatal. It occurs when the body is unable to control its temperature, and so temperature rises rapidly. It may reach up to 41 degrees Celsius within 10 to 15 minutes if it is not treated. Sweating mechanism also fails, so person is unable to cool down, and it causes death or permanent disability if emergency treatment is not given. And so many times patients present with already CNS dysfunction in that condition. A clinical presentation in hot, dry skin, weakness, GI problem, and neurological problem. And hot, dry skin is more important here because many times patients come and it is very easy to confuse it with fever. However, important sign to distinguish fever and hyperthermia is that hyperthermia is fatal and does not respond to antipyretics. So one point I wanted to make is that we are planning to introduce the HRI surveillance into IHIP. And if you go to IHIP, they have syndromic surveillance in the P form, where you enter fever less than 7 days with CNS dysfunction. So when we integrate our surveillance, you will see you might have to use the same drop-down option, but it will also have option of heat stroke. So you make sure, we will inform you when it is introduced, but during the summer season from March to July 31st, health professional needs to understand that he also needs to think if it is a suspected heat stroke or just fever, and so enter that information accordingly in IHIP. Now, heat stroke is a triad of exposure to heat stress, CNS dysfunction, and a core temperature of more than 40 degrees. Now, among these three, exposure to heat stress is the most difficult to understand, identify when especially person is unconscious or doesn't have anybody to report to history, and that's the challenge of labeling a heat stroke as a confirmed heat stroke. No single specific diagnostic test is there, so this is a diagnosis of exclusion. However, you can see the secondary impact of heat, that is end organ damage, differential diagnosis of infection or CNS dysfunction that you can rule out. Now, there are two types of heat strokes. So usually when we see person in a hospital and we think if you think there is a heat stroke, and it might be that the person only had heat stroke within last 1 hour or 2 hours when he was working outside, but that is not always the case. So if you see classic epidemic kind of heat stroke, it occurs in a long period of high ambient heat temperature exposure and humidity exposure. So for this person, he has been exposed to the high heat for a very long time, and then he is developing heat stroke. So he or she may not be necessarily outside to develop the heat stroke. So that is one caveat that we should remember. So in here, presentation is there is little or no sweating. It usually occurs in children, chronically ill, older adults, which have no good thermal regulation. So a person who is elderly, sitting alone, and there is no one to help or support or give them water, or there is no cooling, that person can also come with a heat stroke, regardless of very severe exposure to outside heat or sun. And another type is exertional, that we usually imagine exertional is when the person is exercising or have occupational exposure outside in combination with environmental heat. And so we can easily identify that as a heat stroke. But the first one is sometimes difficult to identify and label. So for the exertional, we have a person who will give you, or accompanying person will tell you that he was working outside, he will be sweating, and he will be usually healthy. He or she will be usually healthy and working outside. So we can conclude two ways. It cannot be excluded simply because sometimes body temperature, if you do not find 40 degrees, it is not necessary that there is no heat stroke. And so in that case, body temperature needs to be measured every 10 minutes. If the exposure to heat is severe enough, even healthy person will succumb to heat stroke. So exposure to heat stroke here is very difficult to define, and how it will impact a person is very difficult to pinpoint. It also depends on person's behavior, physical ability, and many other things. So heat stress, here we see who is vulnerable. And the health status we see gender, age groups, disability, comorbidity like depression, cardiovascular, cerebrovascular condition, diabetes. They need to take extra care. Socioeconomic status will impact a person's cooling ability, while with lack of air conditioning or cooler, they have health access issues, and social isolation and housing type is another socioeconomic factor. Behavior like hydration habits, alcoholism, type of clothing, and strenuous activity also important. Type and location of workplace and residence is also important. Like tin roof, people who live in tin roof are more vulnerable. If they don't have window, there is no ventilation. So all those things impact heat stress and ultimate outcome of that. Now, if we see other indicators, other factors, there are local climate, is on community level. It is also important. It's high frequency severity of heat, humidity, nighttime temperature, and seasonal variation are also important. Community design, like urban heat island effect, that usually occurs in the city, because in the city we have dark roads and many reflecting surfaces in the buildings. The temperature inside the cities are usually higher than periphery of the cities, and that with the overcrowding and poverty and slum areas, they are really vulnerable to high heat stress. Tree shade is less, transportation access might be an issue. And also public shelter, parks availability also define how a person is going to react to heat stress. Preparedness and adaptation planning, like early warning, awareness activities, communication, and health facility preparedness also make a difference in preventing heat stress to the population. Here I wanted to mention that we always take a temperature, but humidity is also an important factor. Now we see that more water content is going to stay in the environment, and heat and humidity has a very bad combination, because once air is humid, it will not allow perspiration to evaporate. So one person can also feel a lot of heat stress when temperature is low but humidity is more. So that is called heat index, and that also impairs heat stress. Three important things we should understand. One is acclimatization in terms of heat stress. It is an improvement in the heat tolerance, gradually increasing the intensity and duration of work performed in the hot setting will help your body to acclimatize to the heat, and that will help physiological changes in your body through cardiovascular and sweating system. The implication here is that a person who is coming from a cold area, coming to work in a hotter area, he might not have acclimatized properly, and that person has more chances of developing heat strokes or exhaustion. Second is accumulation of heat stress. So long-term exposure, not only extreme hot, but moderately hot temperature and humid temperature also cause a lot of heat stress if they persist for long time. Like in summertime, we have often observed in Delhi especially, that night is also not getting cooled enough. So persistent heat will be there, not extreme, but moderate. And that will also increase the chances of heat stress and heat stroke. Another thing I would like to mention is mortality displacement. That refers to process by which some deaths occur very early on in the summer, where more frail people who are already so frail that their mortality will occur even before the high heat time will come in the summer. So many times we ignore that, okay, this is March and there is no more heat, nobody is going to die, but it is not that. Some people who are frail and not capable to manage the heat, they will die, and that might come as a heat stroke. Now I'll just quickly share this slide just to show that how complicated is the physiological process of thermal stress. There is a cardiovascular dysfunction, metabolic consequences, and renal dysfunction, and all this system will be affected. And so impact of heat is not just heat stroke. There are other systems involved. And in that case, you will see that heat-related mortality is not just heat stroke. It is cardiovascular diseases. They increase also. A major cause of death and hospitalization during the summer is cardiovascular diseases. 13 to 90% deaths during heat wave are attributed among elderly due to CVD. And every 10 per degree Fahrenheit increase in mean daily temperature may lead to 2.6% increase in CVD mortality. It just show that not every heat-related mortality is heat stroke, and that's why we are also including CVD mortality in our surveillance format. So we can also track that, and it will also help us understand what is the heat's impact on our health. And similarly, all-cause mortality. So this is just a big table to show how physiological factors affect heat stress, and that makes it very difficult to understand, label only one thing as a heat stress. So it is said that reported heat stroke deaths are only tip of the iceberg, and 90% of that are not reported. So now this is the data from the Chicago heat wave in 1995. We can see in the middle, temperature has risen, and so deaths have risen. That is a heat wave period. The green one is the temperature that has peaked, and similarly, the all deaths have also increased. And if you compare to 1990 and 2000, we can see the average death was very low, and suddenly in 1995 we see a peak. So there is a all-cause mortality increase. And that is one of the easier way to identify heat-related, possible heat-related deaths. This is from Ahmedabad, 2010 Ahmedabad heat wave. We can also see here the temperature is increased up to 47, and similarly, death, which is in the light orange color, has increased for that month. Up to 800 excess deaths in 1 week was reported during that heat wave time. Now, heat waves have occurred before. It's not just heat, but extreme heat. It comes as a heat wave. And globally, there have very known heat waves that have led to around 70,000 excess deaths in Europe, and California, 6,000 excess deaths. Between 2030 and 2050, around 250,000 excess deaths might occur due to malnutrition, malaria, diarrhea, and heat stress induced by climate change. And India has also witnessed a lot of heat waves, 95, 98, 99, 2011, 12, and 13, and 2013 and 2015. In 2015, there was a major heat wave where 2,300 deaths were reported in the Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Odisha, and West Bengal region. And that was the starting point for heat-related illness surveillance. And with continuing climate change, we may see 1.54 million excess deaths per year due to climate change various impact by 2100 in India if we continue emissions. In India, these are the definitions that are for heat wave that are given by IMD, and that are purely based on the temperature. Here, neither humidity is factored in or neither its impact on health. So these are purely meteorological thresholds that are identified for the heat wave. And important thing is that heat wave will be declared on the second day. So that means that a person who has come today, we don't know it is a heat wave, but there is a high temperature, and only day after we come to know that it was a heat wave. So that's why we identify heat stroke as a suspected heat stroke when we don't know actual level of exposure. So here we see that in very early years, the season has normal temperature range. Now the extremely hot days are increasing more and more, and so we need to adapt for that. So world population is going to get exposed to very high heat. 1.5 degree level of global warming, around 14% of world population will be affected, and at 2 degree, 37% of world population will be affected, and India is very vulnerable, so our population is also going to be affected. This is a famous heat dome that happened last year. And so each impact we can see they have heat shelters for people to keep in cool. And high heat, what does it do? We can see the broken cable of the metro services and road damage, and that affects people's ability to go to cooler places or access to the health facilities. And so now heat as a rather than agent, heat is becoming a hazard when it takes a disaster, it becomes a disaster. So our adaptation matters because it will help heat not to become a disaster and not have a greater impact on the heat population. And so what we are doing as adaptation and strengthening measure is heat surveillance. So we can know what is the impact and prepare accordingly. We have heat action plan. We have a chapter in SAPCCH, DAPCCH. We have national adaptation plan. We have capacity building in health facilities. We have health facility preparedness, where we suggest some beds that are earmarked for the heat cases, and so on. It is on the action plan. We also work on sustainable facilities, resilient facilities through cool roof, green roofs, window shading option. And we also suggest adaptation measures based on the health impact, whether shelter should be there or parks should be kept open. So one of the suggestions came out from the Ahmedabad Heat Action Plan was that in the summertime, AMC, the municipal corporation, used to close their park. I mean, they used to close it every day. So it was suggested that because of the high heat, they should keep it open in the peak noon time, so people can go under the shaded trees and help save their lives and prevent heat stress. So some of those suggestion, adaptation, we can include and suggest. Okay, now we move to surveillance. Okay. So with all that information, we'll look into the formats and understand how and why we have designed it some way. So what is the surveillance? Surveillance is an ongoing systemic collection, analysis, and interpretation of health-related data, especially for planning, implementation, and evaluation of public health practice. So it is important that it is ongoing and systemic. So when we start from March 1st to July 31st, we will do the surveillance every day since the starting day, and will not, even though there is no heat or heat wave, it should be continuously done. So we know that when heat increases, what amount of mortality or morbidity occurs. So regardless of temperature or understanding of outside temperature or weather, we will do it ongoing continuously from March 1st to July 31st. The purpose of this specific surveillance is to identify baseline burden of illness and mortality due to heat in the population, because impact of heat is not same in all the places. Some places will have more morbidity, mortality, some places have less. Identify hotspot for the adaptation planning, localize the threshold for early warning and action, and observe the trend of health impact over time as global temperature changes. So we will do that daily, include daily reporting from March 1 to July 31st. Implementation currently is in 23 heat vulnerable states, which was earlier used to be 17 states. And it might increase according to IMD's suggestions, because heat impact is increasing. So it can increase to more states. Formats are recently updated in 2021 to include cardiovascular deaths and all-cause mortality. And the report should be sent to heatwaves2015@gmail.com. Now here, when I mentioned the purpose of the HRI surveillance is to have localized threshold for early warning and action. So this is the one result of a good surveillance or good data collection activity. So in Ahmedabad, after understanding the mortality, they have found out that they have categorized the temperature thresholds and they will generate yellow, orange, and red alert the population according to the impact that they have observed during last few years in terms of mortality. So every place will have different mortality patterns, and based on the data collected, this can be specialized and customized for that place. So these are the case definitions: a suspected heat stroke case, suspected heat stroke death, confirmed heat stroke death, and cardiovascular death. These are the main case definitions that we are collecting. In suspected heat stroke case, it is altered mental status, delirium, disorientation, seizure, augmentation with elevated core body temperature of more than 40, without sign of strokes, history of infection, or signs of medical overdose, or altered mental status, with hot and dry skin and deranged vitals. So these are purely based on the sign and symptoms, mainly sign and symptoms, and vitals may be also deranged, and there should be no sign of infection, no history of infection, or sign of stroke, or sign of medication overdose. If these are present, then there is it will not be a heat stroke case. And this definition is applicable in the heat wave season, that is March to July. So accordingly, whenever a patient is coming, you need to think about whether that person coming with high fever can be a heat stroke patient or not. And suspected heat stroke death is a death that follows identification of heat stroke case. Confirmed heat stroke death is usually suspected heat stroke death, which is confirmed by death investigation committees. Some states have these kind of committees where a medical doctor, sub-inspector, and revenue officer, some districts they have, will go and assess the death and will identify that it can be confirmed as a heat stroke death. In that district, they can utilize this mechanism to confirm heat stroke death and report back in the system. For those places or districts that do not have this kind of committee, we have also given a death investigation form to identify and report confirmed heat stroke death, and cardiovascular death that results from acute myocardial infarction, cardiac arrest, heart failure, and other mentioned cardiovascular causes. This is a framework for data submission. So we have 4 forms, but I will explain that each level has some distributed formats. So Form 1A and Form 1B are to be filled at the health facility level and kept at the health facility level. Based on these 2 forms, health facility will form a Form 2, and then it will submit it to district level. District level will compile it as a Form 3A, and then based on the compilation, they will generate Form 3B and send it to the state, and the state will compile the data as a Form B, and another one they will send it to central level. So if we come back here, when a case is diagnosed in the health facility as a suspected heat stroke case, it will be day 0 for that case, and it will be diagnosed from the emergency department of the health facilities, either a casualty, adult emergency, or pediatric emergency, and it will be collected with a line list. So Form 1A is a daily line list. Form B is for the deaths and confirmed severity deaths and heat stroke deaths, and it is a death investigation form. It should be filled up by the MO or epidemiologist at a district level, and it has all the other information that needs to be collected on exposure and other health status and things. Now, second form is once a health facility fill up 1A and 1B, so health facility will the whole day 0, the one day they will collect the information, and the next day they will generate Form 2, and by 12 o'clock they will transmit it to the higher level. At the district level, they will compile all the health facility level data and then send it by 4 to the state level, and basically state will also work, and by the evening next day that report will be to the central level. So, and meanwhile there is also a collection of IMD related data, that is minimum, maximum temperature, and relative humidity, that needs to be done mainly at the district level, and so I will come to that in the next slides.
Dr. Purvi, yes. Can I request for a second, 1 second? How do you intend to share these recordings and these PowerPoint things with everyone after the session is over.
Sir, I can make a PDF and share with them.
No, that's okay. Because what I see is that everyone is typing off their email IDs on the chat box, anticipating that probably someone will be copy pasting all these email IDs. I think they have a probably that's not a right notion that someone is copying email IDs from chat boxes.
Yes, sir. I
Yeah,
think
so
we
I
will
think
share.
they need, I think we have there are a couple of ways in which again all I see is every 1 minute there is an email ID propping up, probably with the hope that someone is taking care of their email IDs, which unfortunately I don't think anyone is.
Sir.
So I think the message that probably needs to be told to everyone is that. Way one is that we usually tend to upload all the contents into the website of NCDC, which probably takes some time. But the another way which might be quicker is that all of these people get enlisted on those WhatsApp group, which is there for all district program officers, and these recordings and these PPTs can quickly be made available as soon as the session is over in a day's time or 2 days on those WhatsApp group.
Yes,
And as and when it gets uploaded on the website, it will become, but as we know, it usually takes more time to get on the website. So probably this WhatsApp group is where they should get enrolled instead of sending out their email IDs. And I also think that not many, but I think all of them probably had a requirement to register themselves
Yes, sir.
before this thing. So if they have registered themselves, their email IDs will be available.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I think then we can make an effort of using those email IDs for circulation, but give
Yes.
out this message that getting enrolled on those zonal WhatsApp group is important to get the earliest access. Because अभी क्या सब कोई चैट बॉक्स में अपना ईमेल आईडी दिए जा रहे हैं और उनको ये लग रहा है कि कोई उनको उन ईमेल आईडी को नोट कर रहा है, जो कि नहीं हो रहा है. तो इससे तो अच्छा है कि वो अपने स्टेट प्रोग्राम ऑफिसर्स को कहकर उन इंश्योर करें कि वो जोनल व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप में एनरोल्ड है. उसका वो क्रॉस चेकिंग खुद भी कर सकते हैं, क्योंकि अगर वो है व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप पे इसका मतलब उनको एनरोल किया गया, और अगर वो जोनल व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप में नहीं है इसका मतलब उनको एनरोल होना है. तो ये बात आप बाद में फिर से एक बार क्लियर कर दीजिएगा, ठीक है? चलिए कैरी ऑन कीजिए प्लीज.
Okay. So we are coming to form 1, that is health facility format for reporting of suspected cases. And so the cases should be reported from medicine, pediatrics, and casualty and emergency department. And this form should be filled up daily. It is a line list, and you put available information on the patient here and keep it, record it every day, and daily wise you keep the record of that. And then you come to form B, which is more of a health facility for the death reporting and cardiovascular death reporting. You also, health facility will also make a line list of patients who died here, and will put the diagnosis accordingly. And this is also being kept at the health facility. So we have designed the format in a way that you will find the case definition in the same page. You can either generate, you can use this format. We will also share one Word and possibly Excel format also. So transmission internally for you will be easier. So it will be shared in the due time. But these are all the formats in the action plan. So if you have the PDF action plan, you can also go through and copy this, the same thing in a Word or Excel. So next we will go to second format is the format that health facility will give it, send it to district level. It will have combination of heat stroke cases and all-cause death reported day-wise So every day, daily report, one row will be filled up and shared. The next row will be filled up and shared. The definitions are again given here. Now we come to the form 3A, the district format for daily compilation. That district will keep record, and each row represents the health facility that is reporting, PAC 1 to CAC, and whatever the facility levels are there. So this surveillance is going to be happening from PAC level up in all the government and private facilities. So we can they will be compiled row wise every day. Now VP is for district to send it to the state. So once they compile the facility wise, now here they're sending a daily, day wise, one row will be filled up and shared. Another next day they'll fill up the next row and fill up and share with the state. This information, this form will be important form for district because based on this they will be analyzing the health data with the weather data on weekly basis and sharing, utilizing it again. Where a power? Something happened. Sorry, I'll get back to it. Bear with me. Form 3A. Okay, form 3A, you are here. 3A is done. So this will be sent from district to state. Now, based on this, state will compile. Just a minute. Sorry for the glitch. Yeah, form 3B. For form 4A for state format for daily compilation, and so state will compile district-wise data. Every day new form will be filled up according to district information based on the cases and deaths. And then form 4B, that state will send it to the central level day wise, and so every day is one row and it will be filled up and shared with NCDC. So we also use this information that you send us every day. We also compile it a weekly basis and we send it to the ministry, NDMA, IMD, and other agencies that are responsible for learning and doing the disaster management or DM cell EMR. So whatever you are sending us, we are also forwarding it to the higher level. So we rely on you to submit daily information to us. Now we move on to guidelines on investigation of suspected heat-related illness death. This form was introduced last year with a specific purpose to understand why some heat mortality occurs and what are the risk factors and where this kind of mortality occurs more. So this form will help us understand that and also identify the exposure and probably help us determine a suspected heat stroke to confirm heat stroke. So as I mentioned earlier, some of the districts have 3-man committee in the existence who they do like assessment investigation of such deaths in 48 to 78 hours and label it as a confirm or not confirm. But so in that cases and also in the district that do not have this committee, both of those kind of situation, a medical officer or epidemiologist should fill up this form for better understanding of situation of heat stroke death. It is a little longer form, but for argument is also that not many heat stroke deaths are reported on a daily basis. So it should be good. It should be convenient enough to fill up the form for understanding the situation on the ground level. So we have here identifiers of the patient, then the death detail that will be collected from the relatives or accompanying person. There is a clinical history to identify, where the person died, on which activity he was doing, or what other things are doing. Indoor conditions, if person has died indoor, what was the condition, whether fan was there, air conditioner was there, electricity was there, or water was available, this kind of situation. What was person's medical condition, whether he was having a drug, like a medicine that hampered his temperature control, or any other medicine that affected thermoregulation. Such kind of things we are collecting, and also the weather data from the IMD we are entering here. So this is end of the formats, and let me finish this. So I will go through common SOPs, and then we'll have some interaction at the end. So these are the common steps that are should be followed for all for filling up and transmission. So case definition: who will diagnose the case is a medical doctor. Will be diagnosing the HRI case as per the definition. Who will record the data at the hospital? A qualified medical officer, or will be writing the provisional diagnosis in the registers as a suspected heat stroke. And the collecting person can be a pharmacist or multipurpose health worker or staff nurse or anyone in the health facility that can pick up that information and fill up the form. But primary diagnosis, because it is a difficult diagnosis, should be done by medical officer. So whole day, the next day you will be looking at the previous 1 day's whole data, and then you will be health facility will be sending it next day. So reporting units will be all public and private hospitals with casualty and emergency, and reporting departments will be medical, pediatric, casualty and emergency. So here again, day of diagnosis will be day 0, and health facility will record all the deaths and cases occurred in the day 0. The next day, that is day 1, and the transmission of that information from health facility to the state and the center will all happen in 1 day, the next day. Data compilation is a hard copy, can be kept at the health facility level or any facility level. You can keep hard copy, soft copy, but make sure that you have line list at the health facility level properly stored. Reporting after a holiday. So when there is a holiday, you still the health facility or state district, they will still fill up that particular day's form separately, and the working days form separately. So there will be no mixing of 2 days data there. And the NEEL reporting is mandatory. So you have no cases, please put down 0 and send it to us, because empty forms say nothing. There is no meaning of empty form, because we don't understand whether it is not collected or it is collected but it is 0. So it is very important to send it as 0. And also please make sure that you fill up new formats, because many states last time also filled up old formats. So please share this information to medical officers and train them and orient them that we are focusing on heat stroke cases and deaths, cardiovascular deaths, and all-cause deaths. And then that will help us understand the whole juggernaut of mortality that heat is causing, not just heat stroke, but all different kinds of deaths. So now here comes analysis. Mainly we want district nodal officers to be analyzing this, and so he can understand what is going on in the district and take actions accordingly. So we are doing time distribution, place distribution, and age distribution of heat stroke, suspected heat stroke cases and confirmed deaths. So for time distribution, we will have a graph. Place, we will have a map, and there is a table of age distribution of cases and deaths. So for district level, a district surveillance unit, district nodal officer should do it, and it should be done weekly, and data from the previous week should be analyzed and sent it by the next week's Tuesday, and analyzed report should be emailed to SSU by Tuesday evening 4 p.m. Analysis should be done in all the 3 types mentioned above. And formats are, you can use the format that was given in the second and third level formats that prepared at the district level. So this is to show the Excel. So suspected cases will be here. And also, then will be temperature maximum, minimum, and relative humidity. So for district officers, they will need to get this data from the relevant weather department or center. And we are in the process to gather the contact list for the district nodal officer to communicate them daily and gather this information. So usually only after 4 p.m. we know their day's temperature, maximum temperature. So you have to adjust accordingly and make sure that you put the right temperature for the right date, even though you get to know it next day. So to associate the impact and the temperature, we need to make sure we put the right date, right information, the right date, and also relative humidity. So with that, we can plot this kind of graph and we can observe the changes in the cases with the temperature and humidity. So we will also share this kind of Excel, so it will be easier for them to just enter the data and get a graph. This is a map that can be done at the district level. You put the square ones are suspected heat stroke cases, number of cases, and these are the deaths, confirmed deaths. So you can put both of them, and it will help you see visually which district is more affected. And age group that we have, you can analyze it as a cases and deaths based on age group. So next steps for states and district and also for us, just to line out surveillance data collection forms analysis, we will share in due time in Word and Excel. So you can do it, but the important thing is it should be done in any form, Word, Excel, proper format that we kept continuously, properly throughout the surveillance. We will share the contact list as I suggested. On your side, train MOs and relevant staff for collection and transmission. Begin data collection from March 1. And we are also trying to integrate this system into IHIP, but it is under process. So when it is done, we will have another very short training and we'll share what should be done. We are also probably sending heat advisory as we receive information from IMT. We will share that. So please pass through the whole level. Similar for the early warning. We are also trying to get email IDs from, we have email IDs that we will be sharing with IMT. So you will receive direct intimation of forecast and warning. So that is one in the pipeline from us. IC activities, we have website that has all the heat IC. As a new one comes, we will share with you. And heat action plans is should be priority from your side. Once you revise it, please share with us. So we will also give it to COE and they can also provide more information and update on that, and we can finalize that and utilize it effectively.